change the course of this economic downturn, which is also social and cultural, and we have experienced it for 20 years now. I was saying that change is our only hope. Because of our history, because of our capacity, our ability to act, Matteo Salvini's League is the only party in Italy that can represent the change we require in Brussels. And it is the only one for specific reasons. That is because we have been the only ones to see the dangerous route that Ursula von der Leyen's Commission was taking. It is formally upheld by a part of center-right parties, but has carried out left-wing policies. And we traced the route long ago, bravely, against everyone. And even when it was difficult, Matteo Salvini kept the helm going in the right direction, saying no to Brussels. A no that many say easily, but have, however, left their mark on these provisions. We are the only ones who can represent and bring about change. In the past, they ignored us. They laughed at us. Now they fight against us with unconventional means like the surveys. And June 9th is our time to win. It is the moment where we will change Europe. Thank you, because this is the time for us to change. So, before we begin, I invite our speakers and guests to come to the podium for a photograph. We're going to take a picture. So Matteo Salvini, Giancarlo Giorgetti, Andrea Ventura, Geral Animan, Harumimsky, please come on stage for us to take our picture together. We can now begin with our first video that tells the story of this European family that hosts this event, with which the League has shared so many difficult battles in Europe. Please let us show the video.
Emmanuel Macron n'a pas réussi à faire barrage au Rassemblement national.
23,31% des suffrages pour le Rassemblement national de Jordan Bardella.
Zorgen dat die Nederlander weer op één komt te staan.
Bene, direi che è il momento di iniziare.
We can now begin with the contributions from our guests. And the first one is a great friend of the League, a historical ally of the League, and also a personal friend with whom I have shared for 10 years now the battles against this Europe killer of freedoms. Let us have the first video from Flanders.
Ho il piacere di chiamare sul palco.
I have the pleasure of calling the chair of the ID party, Geral Animan.
Saluti a tutti, cari amici.
Good evening to everyone, dear friends. What an honor it is and what a pleasure it is for me and for my national Vlaams party to be able to be here with you today. I am here in this beautiful city, Rome, to bring you the warm greetings of the Flemish. The Flemish people of Vlaams Belang are friendly and convinced partners of the League. We have been so for almost 30 years. I still remember, as if it were yesterday, when in 2013 I went to Turin together with our friend, our Dutch friend Geert Wilders, to greet the new young Matteo Salvini, who delivered a brilliant speech. The friendship between Lega and Vlaams Belang is one of the best things one can experience in politics. Friendship, trust, and a loyal cooperation based on the reciprocal freedom of serving, above all, the interests of one's people. And it is this very cooperation that we have in mind when we talk about Europe. Because despite being against the current trends of the European Union, we do love our continent. We do love Europe. We are not against Europe, we are in favor of Europe. Allow me, my friends, to carry on in English.
Globally spoken, our battle here in Europe and in the United States as well is that between globalism and identity, between freedom and communism. In Europe, we have a specific and extra battlefield, which is that of the national identity versus the empire state called European Union, a battlefield between federalists and sovereignists. Because, dear friends, one of the things you hear often nowadays is that people are supposedly expecting a solution from the European Union. When a problem occurs, they think the European Union should solve this, the European Union can solve this, the European Union will solve this. I don't know if the translation will be able to convey this, but in Dutch we have an expression for such thoughts and for such behavior. And this expression says, they confess to the devil. In this way, we express in my Dutch language that victims throw themselves into the arms of the one who caused their problems. To confess to the devil is a terrible mistake, and to expect the solution of our problems from the EU is also a big mistake. We should not forget, this European Union caused the inflation explosion by doubling the money supply after 2008. We should also not forget, this European Union caused with years of Green Deal hype, with the closure of nuclear power stations and the disruption of our energy supply, the explosion in energy prices long before the Russian invasion of Ukraine became a reality. Let us not forget, friends, my friends, this European Union, that its reset concepts, its sustainable development, and its communist degrowth nonsense has initiated the deindustrialization of our continent and the implosion of small entrepreneurship and of our agriculture. Never forget this European Union that with its forced mass migration disrupted both our European culture and our social system. Therefore, our advice to people that expect solutions from this EU is, please, people, wake up. The European Union is not a solution to our problems. She is, as such, herself, one of our biggest problems. We've got to stop them from going on. We've got to stop this left-wing dominated European Parliament from going on, because this left-wing and communist-minded and dominated European Union hates national identity and national pride, because they do this because they are the best defense against the excesses of the empire. We've got to stop the empire from going on, my friends. In more and more member states, a right wing is maturing that is capable of establishing a new government which can oust the old powers parties, Christian Democrats, socialists, and liberals who with their 19th century origins are no longer able to develop clear vision of the 21st century problems. They no longer see things clearly, and in their political correctness they would rather allow themselves to be led by Greens and to some extent even by communists than to do what the people want. With parties like ours, citizens have the opportunity to democratically push through the wishes of the people. My friends, let us go from here and say with whole our heart, we are the opponents of this European Union because we love Europe. We love the Europe of proud nations. We love our nations. Long live our Europe. Long live Flanders. Viva l'Italia!
Grazie, grazie.
Thank you, Geral. Now, from the beautiful Flanders, we move to the Austrian Alps. At the European Parliament, the delegation of the Austrian Freedom Party, at the helm of this delegation, is a historical friend who has fought many battles with us. He's been fighting with us for 10 years against this centralist group.
Ho il piacere di chiamare.
I am pleased to welcome on stage Harumimsky, group leader at the European Parliament.
Lieben Freunde, sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, ich möchte meine kurzen
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to begin by apologizing because I do not speak Italian. However, today, walking through the city, I saw the power of the history and culture of the city, and I promised myself, and today I promise you, if we win the European elections, and I will be able to speak before you again. Well, meanwhile, I will have learned Italian. Italy is a beautiful country. It is a great country. And I have great respect for your culture. My respect is so deep. Just a few months ago, I had the opportunity to go to Florence to speak before the League. And I was impressed when a few hours before the event, I was able to walk along the historical center of Florence, and I heard somebody calling me, Harald, Harald. They were about 20 or 30 meters away. I turned and I thought, who knows me in Florence? Do you know who it was? It was our own Matteo Salvini, the leader of the League. And then when we met, also for me, it was a magical moment. Why? Because roughly 10 years ago in Brussels, we were sitting together. Gerolf, Matteo, Andre, they were patriots and they wanted to form an alliance against this Europe of the groups, of the left-wing elite. They wanted to form a parliamentary group, and we succeeded. It was a difficult task, but we made it. In 2014, we created the basis for our alliance, and then in 2019, we were able to strengthen our group, and now in 2024, we have so many new friends. And I am glad that also André Ventura, who won the elections in Portugal, is here amongst us. And I am very proud that you are a member of our alliance. It is a great time for the League and for Chega and for André Ventura. I believe that what keeps our alliance together is that we have a lot of respect for each and every one of the countries. We want to be a community. In order to create a shared future where there is no centralism, where we are all equals, and our main points are reduce the powers of the European Union. We have a USA representative amongst us. They have 435 members of Congress, and in this European madhouse, we need to vote for 727 delegates. And even if we reduce that to 50%, nobody would lose or miss out on anything. It would be wonderful for the European continent to reduce this system, which is so cumbersome. We have 27 commissions, people that nobody knows in Europe. Yet they cost a lot of money, and they treat our continent badly with all those bureaucratic legislations and provisions. Let us cut it in half. Let us cut in half the number of commissions, and let us work so that the competences go back to our own countries, to our own states from Brussels, to have a more direct democracy. That is the aim we wish to reach. And dear friends, the second point that is very important for me is a matter of cultural survival. We need to create a European fortress because from 2015, more than 8 million people from Arab and African countries have come to Europe, and 80% of them are not refugees. They're officially not considered refugees. They are not older people. They're not helpless youngsters. No, they are strong people, young, strong people. And when Matteo Salvini was the Minister of the Interior in Italy, he rejected these hordes of foreigners. And not only Italians, but all of Europe must thank you for what you did. What we as a parliamentary group want to do is easy to explain. We want you in Italy to keep being Italians with all your specificities, and we in Austria want to continue being Austrian with all of our specificities. And the same goes for all the other European countries. For each and every one of them, it needs to be possible to work for a better personal future. And together, we wish to create a community that will be at the service of these goals that we share: peace, freedom, and wealth for everyone, if possible. We do not need the Green Deal. We do not need the end of combustion vehicles. That is not what makes Europe work. That is not what keeps it moving. I am glad to feel the power of this international meeting, because here we are able to make our voices heard. And I see you all. There's so many of you. That is the magic, the power that is linked to all of this. And I cannot but say, dear friends, and I know I speak in the name of each and every one of us, long live our democracy, long live our freedom, long live peace that we need to reconquer. I am proud of having been here and of the opportunity you have given me, and I am very happy to be one of you. You are all great, and I promise the next time I shall speak to you in Italian. Thank you.
Grazie.
Thank you. Harold. Now from Austria, we move beyond the Alps to another important country, which is France, where there is a party, Rassemblement National, National Rally, whom together with the Flemish, the Austrians, and the League is one of the essential pillars of our alliance. It is led by a major politician with a capital P, who is now moving through France city by city, town by town, to be confirmed as the first party of this important country in the next European elections, to look with optimism to the next appointment, the presidential elections of France in 2027. Let us watch the video.
Con grande piacere.
I am very pleased to roll the video message of the leader of Rassemblement National, Marine Le Pen. On the 9th of June, is going to be a turning point for our continent. There are two possible voices.
De la soumission, de l'abandon, de la perte de notre prospérité, de notre sécurité, de notre identité et de notre liberté, ou alors il y a la voie du redressement, la voie où nous allons reprendre, nous, nations d'Europe, le pouvoir sur un fonctionnement technocratique qui n'a eu de cesse que de prendre des décisions dramatiques pour notre quotidien. Évidemment, c'est le pacte des migrations qui ouvre grand les frontières à l'immigration clandestine. Vous le savez, M. Leggeri, un ancien patron de Frontex, est sur la liste du Rassemblement national. Il est venu expliquer aux Français que l'Union européenne, la Commission européenne, en réalité, souhaitait transformer Frontex en une agence d'accueil et non pas en une agence de protection de nos frontières face à l'immigration clandestine. Bien sûr, le pacte vert contre lequel nous nous battons avec toute notre énergie, parce que c'est de ce pacte que découlent toutes les décisions, toutes les normes qui sont en train de tuer notre agriculture, qui exigent l'effondrement de notre production, qui vont nous interdire demain de vendre nos logements parce qu'ils ne correspondent pas à des normes environnementales extrêmement strictes et dans un calendrier véritablement très serré. C'est bien sûr les voitures thermiques, vous le savez, qu'ils veulent interdire dès 2035 au bénéfice des voitures électriques qui commencent déjà d'ailleurs à poser des difficultés. Vous voyez que tout cela rend encore une fois cette élection du 9 juin fondamentale. Alors il y a une personne qui a une responsabilité extrêmement importante dans cette politique. C'est Madame von der Leyen. Nous allons nous battre pour être le plus nombreux possible pour empêcher Madame von der Leyen de faire un deuxième mandat. Mais vous savez, chers amis italiens, la démocratie, ça n'est pas seulement mettre un bout de papier dans une urne en plastique. La démocratie, ça consiste à savoir précisément ce que vont faire et ce que vont décider ceux pour qui vous votez. Et moi, j'ai une vraie question. Une vraie question, pas aux Italiens, une vraie question à la première ministre des Italiens. Giorgia, oui, parce qu'on s'est connus dans un autre temps. Madame la première ministre, allez-vous, oui ou non, soutenir un second mandat de Madame von der Leyen? Moi, je crois que oui. Et vous allez ainsi aggraver les politiques dont souffrent terriblement les peuples d'Europe. Vous devez la vérité aux Italiens. Vous devez dire ce que vous allez faire. Moi, je suis convaincue qu'aujourd'hui, en Italie, à droite, le seul candidat qui s'opposera avec toute l'énergie que je lui connais à Madame von der Leyen et à la politique catastrophique qu'elle met en œuvre, c'est Matteo Salvini. Et c'est pour ça que je vous félicite d'être ici aujourd'hui, d'être au soutien de la Ligue pour permettre l'élection de députés qui ne vous mentent pas, qui ne vous manœuvrent pas, qui sont avec vous clairs, lucides et déterminés. Nous ne voulons plus de ces politiques qui ruinent nos agriculteurs, qui mettent en place la décroissance, qui nous imposent le wokisme, qui nous imposent une soumission en quelque sorte à l'islamisme le plus radical. Nous ne voulons pas déconstruire notre histoire, nous ne voulons pas qu'on nous oblige à apprendre à nos enfants que l'histoire des pays européens est une histoire fondée sur le racisme, le colonialisme et toutes ces choses-là. Nous sommes fiers de ce que nous sommes fiers de notre histoire, nous sommes fiers de notre culture, nous entendons la défendre. Mais nous voulons aussi garder notre liberté. Et pour cela, nous devons nous opposer à Madame von der Leyen, parce qu'elle a une idée en tête. Elle veut être présidente de l'Union européenne et pas seulement présidente de la Commission. Elle veut que demain, les commissaires européens ne soient plus choisis par les nations, mais par elles-mêmes. Elle veut que la défense, que la fiscalité, que la santé, que tous ces domaines-là passent à à la responsabilité de la Commission européenne. Que donc nous soyons, nous, nations, et vous, peuple, dépourvus de la liberté de choisir notre destin. À cela, nous n'adhérerons jamais. Alors, mes chers amis, faites une superbe campagne. Je vous souhaite le plus beau des résultats. Je vous souhaite aussi que cette campagne permette de faire émerger la vérité sur qui demain va défendre les Italiens et les peuples en Europe et qui, en sous-main, est en train, en réalité, de plomber leur avenir. Merci à tous. Je vous embrasse.
Grazie, Maria.
Thank you, Marine, for this wonderful message, and best of luck for your campaign as well. So after this first round, this tour across Europe, let's go back to Italy. So we're playing at home in a way. He's not Roman, but he is well aware of the control rooms in Rome and even in Brussels, where he has been working for a year and a half, working as a crucial element of the Italian and European politics. The spread has dropped to a minimum, and Italian government bonds are being subscribed. You know, here's the finance.
Con grande piacere che...
So I'm very pleased to welcome on stage the Economy and Finance Minister and Deputy Secretary of the League, Giancarlo Giorgetti.
Buongiorno a tutti.
Hello, everyone. I was invited to tell you about our economy, how we are managing it, our financial policy from the Italian government. But before discussing our economy, we need to go back to politics. That condition and gives economy a direction. And it depends on who decides. Let's start from there. The answer is simple. It is written in the Maastricht Treaty, which is associated only to negative things here in Italy. It says that the main principle is that of subsidiarity. That is the principle through which things need to be done where they are appropriate, and if they need to be done close to our own people, to our communities, that is where it's done. And if that's not the most appropriate place, then it needs to go higher up. And we need to establish what is right for Europe and what is right for our national level. That is our first reflection. So identities are a value. And if they are a value, then they need to be cultivated. And where there are synergies, then we need to uphold them. The second aspect is the decision-making. Who decides? Because the politics that do not take decisions are not truly politics. And one of the problems that we have is that if we look at our continent, Europe, indebted and old, and we see the other nations around the world who decide, well, we have a subject that pretends it's political, but which is unable to make decisions, producing mountains, piles of legislation, but never making decisions on what is essential. If we have understood that, then we should try and interpret how, on the national level, on an European level, how can we tackle the global competition with the decision through the decisions of governments, with what is decided and what is not decided upon in Europe. In the past few years, what became fashionable in Europe, but it will no longer be so, is the issue of the green transition, the digital transition. Now, what is trendy is something that up until a few months or a few years ago was taboo. That is our safety, the defense of our borders. These are great objectives, great goals that still have an echo in Brussels and here. These are the main political goals of Europe. But another one has been forgotten that has a lot to do with economic growth, but which will become essential and decisive: our demography, the fact that our ancient continent is becoming old. It is getting old. There will no longer be a continent if the number of births keeps going down. Demography and economic growth are often absent from our discussions on finance and economy. And so these are the great goals. The question is, who pays for all that? Where do we find the money to fund all those great goals that we have mentioned? The answer is quite simple. We either tax our companies, our businesses, and our families, or we go into debt. We take debts in these already indebted old countries. In Italy, we have a small problem with public debt. We have tried to face it with the only weapon we have, and that is building trust for the decisions that we make, a trust that is shared, because our debt is also affecting our families. And as you can understand, we cannot survive on government debt because the interest rates are so high that we are unable to use those resources. They cannot be left in the pockets of entrepreneurs. It becomes really complicated to try and do so. So how can we regain one of those fundamental, essential conditions so that our countries, Italy and Europe, may be competitive on global markets? The answer is quite simple. That is by promoting our entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurs are the ones who promote economic growth, financial growth, and that is why we need to build a tax system that not only favors families, but also favors those who work and produce and invest. And that is what we are trying to do here in Italy. And we also need to do something else, which is comes at a very low cost, and that is related to Europe. That what I mean is we need to reduce bureaucracy to the minimum levels, to free the entrepreneurship, our entrepreneurial spirit from this cage that we are all building around ourselves. As you can see, the huge amounts of interpretation they require. They are so difficult. But the answer is not difficult. It is simple. Our ideas need to be clear as we move in this direction. In the concrete reality of decisions in Italy, we have huge European and Italian debt for our recovery plan for the next generation EU. It is suffocated by a mixture of Italian and European bureaucracy. We can say that. We should say that. But I am not the only one saying it. Even my colleagues and the colleagues of other groups are saying the same thing. So we should be able to say yes or no, depending on what interests us. But Europe produces tons of rules and regulations that suffocate our entrepreneurial spirit. We are trying to build synergies. I am giving you an example, and I take responsibility for it. We had an airline, Alitalia, and we said, let us try and build a European champion that can compete in the global sphere of airlines. And for 10 months, we've been fighting against Europe that does not want or does not allow us to make this deal. So I could give you tons of other examples, like the microprocessors and semiconductors companies that had to satisfy all the needs during the crisis. But I shall stop here to say, with a practical spirit, being pragmatic, that the number one recipe for those in politics is that we have our ideas, but we also have something that everyone else lacks: the spirit of reality. We are realistic and we face reality as it is. Thank you.
Grazie, grazie.
Thank you, Giancarlo. We wish you all the best in the streamlining of red tape, not only in Italy, but also in Europe. As I was saying before, this is not just a day dedicated to Europe and European elections alone. We know that at the end of this year, there will be another major electoral appointment. The whole world will be looking at it. I'm talking about the US elections. Today, we have a guest who, despite his young age, he is a successful entrepreneur and an experienced politician. He decided to run for the nomination of the Republicans. He then left to support the candidacy of Donald Trump, and in the future, we hope so. We wish he will succeed. We hope he will hold a major office in the U.S. administration. Please roll the video. So I am delighted to welcome on stage Vivek Ramaswamy.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a warm welcome, and I appreciate the invitation to speak with you today. I know there's going to be a translator, so I'm usually criticized for speaking a little too fast, but I will try to speak a little bit more slowly today, and we'll get right into it. We're in the middle of a spiritual war for the soul of the West right now. It is not a war between black and white, as the press would have you believe. It is not a war between man and woman. It is not even a war between gay and straight. It's bigger than that. It is a war between those of us who believe in free speech and those who believe in censorship. It is a war between those of us who believe in meritocracy and those who believe in group quotas. It is a war between those who believe in national identity and being proud to be a citizen of a nation and those who believe in global governance. It is a war between the managerial class and the everyday citizen. And I will tell you that most of us here, most of us in my country, most of us in Italy, are on our side of this war. That's the good news. But the bad news is the other side is still winning this war. And the question to answer is, why? Now, it's not because the other side is more logical in their arguments. Take the climate change agenda. The same people who favor ending carbon emissions in the West are perfectly fine shifting those same carbon emissions to places like China. The same people who are opposed to burning fossil fuels in the West are also opposed to nuclear energy, the best known form of carbon-free energy production known to mankind. So no, it is not logic that causes the other side to win. It's something else. And I'm going to maybe speak a little bit about something that's different than you may have heard about from the other speakers, but I think accounts for what's going on. I'll speak as a member of my generation. I'm 38 years old. I'm the youngest person ever to have run for US president as a Republican in the United States. And I will tell you something speaking on behalf of my generation. Here's what's happened. Faith, patriotism, hard work, family, these things have disappeared. And when you have a vacuum in your heart that runs that deep, that is when the poison fills the void. I'll share with you the words of Blaise Pascal, famous scientist, European scientist, who famously said, if you have a hole the size of God in your heart and God does not fill it, that means something else will instead. If you don't pledge allegiance to the flag of your nation, you will pledge allegiance to a different flag instead. The transgender flag, the flag of a different nation, the flag of a union of nations. It's a need we have as human beings to pledge allegiance to something greater than ourselves. And yet when we lose faith, family, patriotism, hard work, that is when wokeism, transgenderism, climatism, COVIDism, globalism fill that void. We are hungry for purpose and meaning. That is what's going on in our generation. And so this is how we win. We can't anymore just be a conservative movement that is running from something. We have to be running to something. What is it that we are running to? We are running to our vision of sovereignty. What it means to be sovereign as an individual, family, nation, God. That beats race, gender, sexuality, and climate if we have the courage to actually stand for something. We can't just be against what the other side puts up anymore. That has only worked and gotten us so far. But if we are to achieve victory in this war, and a war it is for the future soul of the West, then we have to offer a vision of our own. What do we actually stand for? The sovereignty of the individual. That I am an individual born on this earth with my own agency, not some member of a racial or gender class, not riding the tectonic plates of group identity, but that I am an agent put here to achieve the maximum of my God-given potential with my own hard work, my own commitment, my own dedication. That is the sovereignty of the individual over group identity. The sovereignty of the family, the greatest known form of governance to mankind, that the family is an inherently strong institution that grounds every nation and every great country through human history. Mother and father in the household. The nuclear family, not something we apologize for, but something that we fight to preserve for the preservation of a great country. The sovereignty of the nation. That I am a citizen of a nation, that I am proud of that, not some nebulous global citizen fighting climate change from the mountaintops of Davos, no. That I am a citizen of this nation, in my case the United States of America, in your case a citizen of Italy, and that you are proud of it, that the nation state gives us our sense of purpose and meaning. That a nation without borders is not a nation. That nationalism does not have to be a bad word, but something that can embrace positive values of who we are and what we actually stand for. The other side will say that you're only standing for the interests of your nation at the expense of the global good. I say something different. The way we make the world a better place is not by worrying about a different nation's problem, but the way we make the world a better place is each of us making our own nations itself stronger. That is a positive nationalism for the future that we need not run from, but we ought to embrace the sovereignty of the nation state itself. Individual, family, nation, God will forever beat race, gender, sexuality, and climate. Thank you. Thank you. But it's not going to happen automatically, and we're not working with a lot of time here. If my two sons, who are with me in Rome, actually for this trip, one is 4 years old, one is 1.5 years old, if they are in high school, before we in our country fail to get this right, I don't think the United States of America will exist as the same nation that it is. And I don't think in this country, in Italy, in France, in the European Union nations, you are working with a lot of time either. We don't have a lot of time. This is our last window, I think, to get this right for the continued existence for self-governing democracies in the West. So this is our moment, but we can't wait for some leader from on high to come on down and save us. It doesn't work that way. If we are going to be saved, it is going to be because we step up and save ourselves. I heard Marine Le Pen make her comments by video just a moment ago, so I'll build on something she said. She said democracy is not just about casting some piece of paper in a ballot box every year, and I agree with that. Democracy is more than just the act of putting a ballot in the ballot box. The true measure of the health of a democracy is the percentage of people who feel free to say what they actually think in public. Right now, we are doing poorly. We have a culture of fear that has spread across my country, that has spread across this country, that has spread across the modern West, that has spread like an epidemic. I'll call it a pandemic. Spread faster than COVID-19, okay? And that culture of fear tells you to shut up, sit down, do as you're told. A culture of fear that says you will be losing your job, your kids will get a bad grade in school, you will become an outcast in your own community if you say the wrong thing, think the wrong thought. And that culture of fear has replaced the culture of free speech that defines a truly free democracy. The way we will defeat that culture of fear is for every one of us to start speaking the truth in the open again. Say in public what you will otherwise say in private at the dinner table. Say it with a spine. Say it with conviction. Say it with respect. But part of respect is that you respect your neighbor enough to tell him what you actually think. And you see, that's what it's going to take every one of you in this room to bring back the identity of your nation, of each of our nations, the identity and the spiritual soul of the modern West itself, to speak the truth, speak it without apology. That's what we have to do at every step to get our very culture and our nations back. The truth, as I will, that God is real, that there are two genders, that fossil fuels are a requirement for human prosperity, that reverse racism is racism, that an open border is not a border, that parents, not the government, should determine the education of their children, that the nuclear family is the greatest form of governance known to mankind, that we don't have to apologize for our success, that national pride is not something to be ashamed of, but to be proud of. These things are controversial, not because they are false, but because they are true. So that is what I ask you to do. Stand up and speak the truth, not just when it's easy, but when it is hard. Because if you're unwilling to do it, then what hope do you have for the rest of your neighbors and for your citizens? But if you do, then I'll say this in Italy, because we're here in Rome. We don't have to be in the West at the end of the ancient Roman Empire. We don't have to be a civilization, or each of us a nation in decline. I say this on behalf of my nation, the United States of America. I still believe that we can still yet be a nation in our ascent. Maybe even the early stages of our ascent. And as I say here in Italy, if you all revive pride in who you are, in your history, in your traditions, in the family as an institution that grounds a great nation, then so may it be for you here too, that even with a long history before you, just perhaps your best days may still yet be ahead of you as well. Be proud of who you are. We'll be proud of who we are. My job will be to do everything I can to make the United States of America as great of a nation as it can be, as it is your job to make sure that Italy is as great of a nation as it can be. That is how we make the world a better place, by making each of our nations stronger. And with that, may our best days still be ahead of us. God bless you. God bless all of you and your families. And may our best days come ahead. Thank you. Thank you. Take care. Thank you.
Grazie.
Thank you. Thank you, Vivek, for having reminded us that although we are in 2024, freedom and freedom of speech,
costanti e rivendichiamo come Lega di essere stati.
we need to remind ourselves that we were the only ones in Brussels from the League, together with Freedom and Democracy, to oppose the legislation that the Commission wanted. From the American dream, we are going to move to the Portuguese dream, because a few years ago a new party was born in Portugal, because a member of the Portuguese Assembly of the Parliament decided to leave the family of the populist parties that he had strayed away from, and he founded a party called Chega, which means enough. And he did it by himself. Not only is he here with us in Rome, but after the Portuguese elections of a few days ago, he's about to enter the parliament with 49 representatives from his party. Let us watch the video.
E chiamo con me sul palco il leader del partito.
So I call André Ventura, the leader of the Portuguese Chega party, to join me on stage.
I'd like to start this intervention. Thanks very deeply to the ID family, our president and all our leader friends, and Matteo Salvini in particular, because they were great support on our general elections. We had nearly 20% of the votes in the general election. Thank you. And we are now in the pole position to winning the European elections, and we will fight very hard for that in Portugal. We will fight for you, we will fight for ID, we will fight for all the Italians in these new European elections. Thank you. Thank you for your support. Thank you. I believe winds of change, it's a very accurate expression for what we are doing today. Why? Because things are changing in Europe. And if things are changing in Europe, it's in big part because of us, because of ID Party. We are facing challenges that we never had before. Our values of family, security, homeland, nation, Christian values, they are all now at risk at this European election. Before I came from Lisbon to Rome, and when I arrived in Rome, the journalists asked me, should we support Giorgia Meloni to the European Parliament? But why should we support Giorgia Meloni if we should and we can support the only candidate, the only man, the only politician who defends all the nations in Europe, and that man is Matteo Salvini? Why shouldn't we support him as the greatest European candidate we have? In these European elections, we have a great fight between evil and the good values. And it's really true, because in all our countries now, we are facing a very strong waves of immigration, attacks on our civilization, and attacks on our values. But if no one defends us, we should stand for our values once at a time. We should, and it's our duty to stand for our values. I would like to say here, like I said in Lisbon, in Madrid, in Paris, in Rome, in Germany, in Austria, the most simple thing about identity and democracy. Europe is a Christian continent and should remain as a Christian continent around the world. It's a Christian continent. We have to save Europe from the Brussels bureaucracy and the Brussels centralism. Our American friend, which were just here right now, he said the right thing. democracy, it's not only about voting. It's about say what we want, and when we believe it. Nowadays, freedom is at risk in Europe. They want to control our social media. They want to control the traditional media that they are already controlling. And they want to control our freedom of speech. So the great battle we have to don't forget nowadays, it's the battle for the freedom of expression. We are the guardians of the freedom of expression all around Europe. In Italy and all around Europe, we are the guardians of the freedom of expression. I know this is not politically correct. Europe cannot still live with this massive immigration on our continent. It's impossible. If we are opening our borders every time, we will end up not having borders all around the continent. Of course, we have to support those who run from the war, from terrorism around the world. We are the most humanist continent in the world. But what happened yesterday in Moscow should remind us that we should allow to come to this continent all those who come for good. Those who come to work and to accept our values. And we should say to those who want to destroy our values and our continent, we will not allow them to remain in Europe, and we will send them back to their countries. We will send them back to their countries because they didn't come for well. They didn't come to work. They didn't come to accept our Christian values, to respect our women, to respect our children. They are coming to destroy inside our civilization and our European project. So when they say we are radicals and we are extremists, we should remind them that the only European party right now that defends our European values, our security, and the values of our parents, the only party is the ID party. All the others are globalist parties who are destroying the European Union. We have to fight the gender ideology. We have to fight it in our universities, in our schools. We have to protect our children. They don't understand this. But you know why they don't understand this? Because they want to make us weak. They want to make European culture weak, destroyed. All this transgender, all this LGBT ideology has only one purpose: destroy our great European values. They say we are against the European Union. They say we are against the European Union, but they are wrong. We are the only ones who defend the real Europe, the real European values of our country, of our countries together. We are the only ones. I would like to call the attention of all the people in Europe to this new culture of censorship. The new cancel culture that we have in Europe nowadays. They are trying to control Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and everything. First, they controlled the traditional media. It was the first thing they did. Then they controlled the universities. Then they controlled the political institutions. And now they want to control the only vehicle of freedom of expression that we have in our countries. In the next European elections, we have to, with all our strength, we have to stand for freedom of expression. We have to defend this social media, and we have to defend our freedom of speech. We need freedom, and we have to fight for that freedom in Europe. My friends, we are in a very, very difficult international moment. We have a war in the Eastern Europe. We have war in the Middle East. We have weak governments in Germany. We have weak governments in Spain. We have weak governments all around Europe. And we need to fight the good fight. That fight is defend our values and our interests above all. We cannot still be the continent and the countries who are already ready to paying for the immigrants, for the refugees, for all the other countries, and we don't have money for ourselves, for our kids, for our grandfathers, for our workers, for our pensionists. In the several next months, we have the chance to change the world. And how can we change the world? Winning the elections. Winning the elections. Because people are tired of corruption. People are tired of massive and illegal immigration. People are tired of destroying the institutions and the main values of our continent. My friend, if Donald Trump wins the next elections, and if we win the next European elections, they will not defeat us. We will defeat them. We will win the European elections, and we will change the world. We will change the world. God bless the European Union. God bless the United States of America, and God bless the Christian values of our fathers. Thank you.
Grazie, grazie André per le tue bellissime.
Thank you for these wonderful words, and best of luck on your future challenges that are upcoming, by the way, with the setting up of the new government in Portugal. Very well, we are coming to an end of this day, and the event will be wrapped up by the person for whom we are here. There is the reason why I am in the League myself, and I've had the privilege and honor of being in the European Parliament. He has been leading us over the past years. He has strengthened the group in the European Parliament too, and after the elections in June, I'm sure it will be even stronger. It will have more and more friends, and he will definitely take center stage in the next European Parliament. When I first met him, that was about 10 years ago in Brussels. I was in another party, actually, and there's one thing in particular that struck me about him. He has many qualities, but the one that I really felt to be more important is perhaps the one emerges less in the papers: simplicity. It's not something to be taken for granted in politics. It's not easy being simple. And I must thank him, because over the past 5 years, we shared a lot of important moments. But if the Identity and Democracy Group will be able to return to the European Parliament after these elections stronger than ever, he is the one that deserves credit, because even in the toughest times, he helped us carry on. So we can really change Europe with his help.
È con grande piacere che
I am delighted to welcome on stage the Deputy Prime Minister of Italy and Minister of Infrastructure and Transport and Secretary of the League, Matteo Salvini.
Non fate così che poi i giornalisti...
Well, the left-wing journalists will end up saying nobody was in attendance. So don't make so much noise. Be more silent. So thank you for your smiles. I thank our foreign guests. I thank Gerolf, Harald. I thank Marine, Vivek, Andre, Patrick. I thank all those who traveled a long way to bring their contribution to this step we're taking towards a great future. And allow me, friends, my friends from abroad, I thank the 1,500 people who have gathered here in Rome, have come from all over Italy. They paid for the travel expenses themselves, by the way. Well, as a party secretary should do, and as a deputy prime minister of the second industrial power of Europe should do, I had prepared a written text. But after listening to your presentations, I rewrote a couple of things, because I've heard several figures, several elements, but it was a common thread running from the United States to Lisbon to Paris. It's that of freedom and fear pitted against the courage to say the truth. Someone was saying that you have to say out loud in public what you think in private. How many government crises would have come about if we could truly say what we think? And this doesn't go for the Italian government necessarily. I'm saying this to my foreign friends. This goes for many countries. But this government in Italy, rest assured, will stay in office until 2027. Someone is trying to break us apart, but they will fail. I must say that Giorgia Meloni is a friend and an ally. Sure, even between friends, sometimes you have different points of view, and I hadn't seen the video message by Marine Le Pen, another brave and loyal woman. She was a friend in tough times and when everything was going well. So Marine asks Italy and Italian politicians whether they are willing, with the votes they will win from the citizens, to support a second term of this European Commission, which has truly caused a whole lot of problems. I will say this serenely today. The Italians who will vote for the League will never vote for another term for Ursula von der Leyen with the socialists and with the left wing. No. you cannot have the same team make amends for the past mistakes. So freedom, above all, it is correct to say that we must not run away from opposite views. We have our own view of the world. Let's start from the most simple things that in certain moments in history seem to be revolutionary somehow. So let me take you not from a great philosopher, from one of the great minds of the past centuries, but from a brave woman who was born and lived in our continent, who unfortunately I never met personally, but just like many Italians, like many Americans, she is now attacked because she dares to say something that is considered politically incorrect. Man is a man, as Andrea said. Man is a man. I say thank you, J.K. Rowling, who is daring enough to say what is correct, what we should be saying. And if for Brussels the enemy is not Islamic extremism but Harry Potter, well, perhaps in Brussels someone has a bit of a problem. We can easily talk about war, armaments, rockets, bombs, massacres, soldiers, but we cannot talk about family. I think that right now, if we can consider an option, the fact that French soldiers, Italian soldiers, Austrian soldiers, Flemish soldiers, Portuguese soldiers may leave their country to go to war, well, I think that is a dangerous option. We need to hold our horses, and I think that President Macron is a danger for our country and for our continent, given what he has said. The problem is not mother and father. The problem is the warlords such as Macron, who talk about the war as if there were no other problems. I don't want to leave a continent to our next generation, to my children, a war that is ready for, a continent that is ready for World War III. I want a continent that wants peace. Clearly, there's a note on the sidelines for the Italian press. There is a war. I'll tell you this, we know that there is an aggression. There is someone that invaded and someone who was attacked. That was Russia and Ukraine. There's no doubt about this. But on the social networks, someone mentioned this before me, I was reading on the social networks that someone was actually controversial in the left wing because of the 145 victims of the Islamic attack yesterday. Well, that's something to be afraid of. It's not a matter of political competition. You cannot be controversial about this. Consider that the League was the only Italian party last year that voted against the Digital Service Act, which is a law that wants to tell you what you can write or not on the social media. It has to decide the algorithms, where is the truth, where is the line separating the truth and fake news. It's Orwell-like. It's an Orwell-like thing. Under item 91 of this Digital Service Act, the European Commission is entrusted in specific times to directly interact with digital platforms in order to promote reliable information. That was the goal of the gag law. That's not the approach that is an approach that is worthy of the European Union. That is something that belongs to the Soviet Union. I cannot think that our future will be that of psycho police and psycho crimes we read about in George Orwell's 1984. So it's a battle of freedom. So above all, 2024 can be a turning point, and because 67 days are left to go to this great opportunity the Italians and other European peoples will have. There's just a couple of months left to go to give new momentum to justice, peace, and welfare, even in the United States of America. Clearly, everyone decides what he wants at his own home. But look at the the years when the Republicans were in office in the US. Those were years of peace. So hopefully the Americans will opt for peace again. Will choose peace in November, because despite what the Italian media says, I remember that Donald Trump underwrote the Abraham Pact, helping out with the United States. And I remember a great Italian who's no longer with us, brought together at the same table the two superpowers of the world, Russia and the United States. The leaders got together and shook hands, and that leader is Silvio Berlusconi, who fought the battles for freedom, and this is his legacy, his precious legacy, for me and for the Italian people. It's hard to talk about peace today, because who knows what's behind it all. But it's not, the problem is not religion. Vivek was saying this. So it's not white, black, gay, straight, the fans of a given football team. In this huge hall, there will be Christians, Jews, Buddhists, Muslims, Protestants, atheists. For me, the Italian state, just like the European Union, should never reach out into the bank account of a citizen, should not reach out into the bedroom of a citizen or in the heart of a citizen. But politically speaking, that's convenient, but it would be hypocritical to think that everyone is aligned, everyone is on the same page, because all religions have evolved and reached some sort of tolerance, respect, and inclusion in 2024. There is just one holy text that is not compatible with democracy, freedom, and civil liberties that we have conquered in time. The literal interpretation of the Quran. That is not compatible with our societies, with our democracies. Because, may I point this out, whispering that in the year of the Lord 2024, under many Islamic regimes, still today, homosexuality is punished with the death penalty or by serving time in prison. So clearly, if we want to defend civil rights, we have to make a distinction. We have to select those who come to our country. Freedom, economic freedom. Well, the European Union has failed. Next week, we will talking about our idea of the future. Next week, the European Commission, on its agenda, will include another bad choice, removing the contributions, the allocations to workers that resort to fossil fuels, damaging so many workers, for example, fishermen, farmers. What we want is a European Union that promotes and preserves the produce of our territories. And we cannot think that we can go without fossil fuels in the near future, because the Green Deal is a sort of new ideology. From Marx and the workers, they have shifted to Greta Thunberg, Franz Timmermans, and then this commission. So from the rights of the workers, they have shifted to the promotion of Chinese electric cars, saying that we can go without fossil fuels in the years to come, saying that we will be depending only on Chinese electricity, which is produced by burning fossil fuels. If they say so, either they're totally ignorant and they know what they're saying, or someone's behind it. Someone's behind it or pulling strings, paying in dollars or yen. Yuan. So the new tax on the house imposed by the European Union is sheer folly. In Lisbon, in Vienna, in Brussels, in Paris, in Madrid, in Milan. Why should a family spend 30, 40, 50,000 euros to have a greener house? And 50,000 euros for a greener car, 50,000 euros for a greener house. And since animals release emissions, enough with cattle, enough with chicken, with milk, without cereals, let's have vegetable steaks, vegetable milk, vegetable cheese. What's the final goal? To create a European Union where only the rich can live. If you have plenty of money, you can live. Well, if you don't have money, you will have to survive. And I'm not happy with this. I don't want my children to survive in poverty. I don't want a country that is divided based on social classes. Everyone must be able to work, and then merit makes a difference. I thank Giancarlo Giorgetti for the work he's doing, and allow me to thank the ministers, the undersecretaries, the members of parliament, the members of European Parliament, of the League. They deserve a big round of applause. It's about 100 men and women who work on a daily basis in Parliament. We're talking about economic freedoms, but we're also talking about values. Saying the truth can come at a price. Yes, I was saying this with my friend Vivek, a country that does not defend its borders, a European Union that does not defend its borders, an American continent that does not defend its borders is killing its own population. Defending one's borders is not the right of a politician, it's the duty of a politician. And what has the European Commission done over the past years? Absolutely nothing. Then, over the last 3 years, they tried to get done what they didn't do over the past 5 years. But that's not the way to do it. Surely, defending your borders can entail some risks. I was mentioning this before taking the floor. As an interior minister, I was not heroic. I simply enforce the law. The Italian constitution mentions that defending the borders of our country is the duty not only of the politicians but of citizens too. The landings of illegal immigrants dropped by 90% when I was in office. I was tried, I risked going to jail, but I will be holding my head high in that courthouse for defending the borders of Italy, of Europe, and of the West. Not only the borders, also the dignity, history, culture, tradition, identity. So, if on the 9th of June we will have to choose between the warmongering Europe of Emmanuel Macron and the peaceful and prosperous Europe of Marine Le Pen, I will always side with Marine Le Pen, with the identity and democracy. And we've heard several stances here. The good thing about our group is we are very diverse. Sometimes we have different interests. But regardless of all this, we have always stood by each other. This is what drives me crazy. I want to preserve my health, so in the morning I just won't read the papers in my country. So our friends from abroad should know that this meeting was depicted on the media recently as the black far-right gathering of subversive, racists, sovereignists, racists, intolerant people, and they just cannot come to grasp with it, cannot grasp it all. the first party in Austria, in Belgium, in France, the party that won the election in Portugal, the Republican culture that may save the future of the United States and of the whole world and of the whole Western civilization. These are parties that won. And they represent hundreds of millions of people. So the media and everyone else is trying to stop us. I remember when 10 years ago I took office as secretary. I was a bit slimmer. I had less gray hair, but it's been a great experience. It's been a great pride for me to serve my party and my country. It's one of the greatest gifts God could have given me. Again, they're trying to put us off, but they have come across the wrong person and the wrong movement. With a smile on our face, but determined, with great passion, we will always be moving forward. Let me wrap up, because there's a timer. I have to stick to my time, just as the other speakers did. Let's go back to 1982. I'll tell you later who the quote is by. Speaking about Europe, he said, but this is very topical. It could go for Europe today. So this shows that history repeats itself. I throw towards you, old Europe, this cry of love. Find yourself again. Be yourself again. Go back to your origins. Revive your roots. St. John Paul II, Santiago de Compostela, 1982. The roots, the identity, the origins, the pride. I think that in 77 days' time there will be a referendum, actually, between the past and the future. You will choose between past and future, precariousness and right to work, between those who decide what you should think and those who love freedom of thought. I hate censorship. I hate gag laws. Even the worst of ideas, an idea that might seem reckless to me, should be expressed. I must not smother it. I must fight it with my own idea, which is stronger. A European Union that is based on censorship is not my European Union, especially when they question the freedom of thought and of expression of who I consider to be a sheer genius, Elon Musk. Then, if that is the case, then we have to win the elections for our own sake, for the sake of our children. So I thank you, because I know you have given up a Saturday with your family in order to be here. Know this, I am divorced, by the way. I'm not judging or teaching anyone anything. One of my greatest successes in my 51 years of life are my two extraordinary children. I'm taking away some time from them right now, but hopefully I will return it to them with interest in the years to come. But let's go back to 1984. And man is a man. I respect everyone, but I demand respect. The terrorists, a great author such as Oriana Fallaci, many years ago, she wrote that the first goal of terrorists is not to kill, is not to kill as many people as possible, is to generate fear in order for us to resort to self-censorship and self-limit ourselves. I am proud that the League and Identity and Democracy will be the purveyor of peace, prosperity in the upcoming elections, European elections in June, on the 9th of June. So we have 67 days to be filled with ideas and enthusiasm. Surely our pockets are not as deep as the pockets of the others. The media are not on our side, but Soros can side with them. The bureaucrats and bankers can side with them. Other dirty interests of people smugglers can side with them. What is dear to us, what matters to us, is the future of our children. This is a continent that was born to promote and defend peace. The vote of the 9th of June 2024 must entrust us with the task of bringing back to Europe policies for peace, for progress, for well-being. Enough with bombs, missiles and weapons and war as if it were something natural. So, I thank you. There's an interesting news in Italy that just came out recently. We're being spied. There's a story of an affair of spying dossiers with the finance police, with some part of the magistracy of the judicial, and with some journalists. Well, they were spying on the private life, on everyday private life. They're spying the bank accounts of tens of thousands of people. This is something that is more fitting for a regime. But I can tell this to these people who are still trying to intimidate us today. Spy on us as much as you want. Go on with your dossiers. Keep on chasing us, try us, arrest us, but you will never stop our ideas and our desire for freedom. Up with freedom, up with League, up with identity and democracy. Best of luck to our American Republican friends in November, and let's get hold of Europe. This is our house, it's not their house. Thank you.
Ci sono cose che non cambiano mai, o almeno non dovrebbero farlo.
Venite su, amici,
Altre però
amici dall'estero.
devono cambiare.
Come here on stage, our friends from
Non sostituiranno
abroad
le loro idee alle nostre.
and friends from the League. Thank you for joining us. Give yourself a big round of
La
applause.
loro
You
paura
are
con la nostra
sensational. Thank
sicurezza.
you.
Il loro estremismo con il nostro lavoro. Questo con questo.
Forza anche i parlamentari della Lega, su, forza!
Perché abbiamo l'orgoglio delle nostre radici
Così almeno qualche giornalista farà l'appello di chi
e della
manca.
nostra identità. Ci sono cose che
O la pensa in un modo o non fa niente. Noi che non abbiamo finito